The stars stretched endlessly before the human ship Endeavour as it moved through the darkness of space. Inside the command bridge, Ambassador Kalen Ross stood with his arms crossed, watching the massive structure that appeared on their screens. It looked like a living thing, pulsing with strange lights and covered in what seemed like organic tissue rather than metal. "That's not a normal space station," Dr. Sarah Chen whispered beside him. She was the ship's head scientist, and her eyes were wide with fascination and fear. "No, it's not," Ross agreed. "But it's what we came here for. First contact with alien life." The communications panel beeped. A voice came through, speaking perfect English somehow. "Human vessel. You will dock at Portal 7. The collective synthesis wishes to meet you." Ross nodded to the pilot, and the Endeavour moved forward. As they got closer, Sarah gasped. The station wasn't just organic looking. It was actually alive. She could see it breathing, expanding and contracting like a giant lung in space. They docked carefully. The airlock opened and a strange smell filled the corridor. It reminded Sarah of hospitals and gardens mixed together. 3 aliens waited for them on the other side. The largest one stood in the center. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer like water. She had 4 arms and eyes that glowed with a soft golden light. "I am Matriarch Velshara," she said. Her mouth didn't move, but somehow they heard her voice in their heads. "Welcome to the Galactic Collective. We have been expecting you." Ross stepped forward and extended his hand. Velshara looked at it curiously but didn't take it. Instead, one of her companions, a shorter alien covered in gray fur, scanned Ross with a small device. "We do not touch unknown species," Velshara explained. "Not until we understand their biology." "It is the law." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Something about the way Velshara said law felt wrong. They were led through corridors that pulsed with life. The walls were warm to the touch. Strange plants grew from the ceiling, and the floor felt soft beneath their boots. Everything here was alive, and everything seemed connected. Finally, they entered a vast chamber. In the center was a pool of glowing liquid. Holographic images floated above it, showing different alien species and their genetic codes. "This is the heart of our civilization," Velshara said proudly. 12,000 years ago, my ancestors discovered the Genesis Code. It is the mathematical pattern that underlies all life in the galaxy. With it, we can read, write, and control the very essence of existence. The gray-furred alien stepped forward. "I am Curator Zenith. Every species in the galaxy has registered their genetic template with us. We ensure harmony and prevent genetic chaos. We are the gardeners of life itself." Ross frowned. "Registered? What does that mean exactly?" Velshara's eyes brightened. "It means we scan their DNA and add it to the collective database. Then we insert small modifications, safety measures. These modifications ensure that species cannot harm themselves or others through uncontrolled evolution or genetic warfare." "You change their DNA without permission?" Sarah asked, her voice sharp. "We preserve order," Velshara replied calmly. "Before the synthesis, species destroyed themselves with biological weapons. They created plagues that wiped out entire worlds. We stopped that. Now, all life in the galaxy exists under our guidance and protection." The third alien, who had been silent until now, spoke. It looked like a mass of floating crystals held together by energy fields. "You will submit to scanning. You will receive the standard modifications. Then you will be welcomed into galactic civilization. This is how it has always been done." Ross felt his jaw tighten. "And if we refuse?" The chamber fell silent. Velshara's forearms moved in what might have been a gesture of sadness. "Then you cannot be allowed to exist. Uncontrolled biological entities are too dangerous. We will show you why." The holographic display changed. It showed a beautiful planet covered in purple forests and blue oceans. Then the image shifted. The same planet appeared again, but now it was gray and dead. Cities stood empty. No plants grew. This was the world of the Krell, Velshara explained. They refused to join the synthesis. They believed in what they called freedom. So we demonstrated the consequences of rejecting order. We activated their biological lock. "What's a biological lock?" Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. Zenith tapped his device and new images appeared. "When species join the synthesis, we insert genetic switches into their DNA. These switches are harmless unless activated. If a species rebels or threatens galactic harmony, we can trigger these switches remotely. The Krell switches caused universal sterility. Within 1 generation, they ceased to exist as a breeding population. The survivors live now as museum pieces maintained by our care. Ross felt sick. You sterilized an entire species because they wouldn't obey you? We maintained order, Velshara corrected, and we gave them more mercy than they deserved. They could have suffered far worse. Our biological locks can cause madness, docility, or immediate death if necessary. Sarah grabbed Ross's arm. We need to go, now. But Velshara raised one of her hands. You have 30 of your days to decide. Return to your homeworld. Consult with your leaders. But understand this. Every species in the galaxy has made this choice. All chose to join us. Those who refused no longer exist in any meaningful way. The crystalline alien floated closer. Your biology is unusual. We detected strange patterns in your initial scans. Chaotic elements. We will need to study you carefully before designing appropriate modifications. But do not worry. We have never failed to bring a species into harmony with the Genesis Code. Ross straightened his shoulders. Humanity will make its own choice. We'll return in 30 days with our answer. As the human delegation walked back to their ship, Sarah leaned close to Ross. They're slave masters, she whispered. They control every living thing in the galaxy through genetic manipulation. They're not gardeners. They're tyrants, Ross nodded grimly. I know. And we need to figure out what makes humans different before they try to lock us down like the Krell. The Endeavor pulled away from the station and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Matriarch Velshara watched them go. The humans will comply, she said confidently. They always do. Life cannot exist without order. They will learn this truth as all species do. But Curator Zenith looked at his scanner with troubled eyes. The human genetic code on his screen was unlike anything he had ever seen. It twisted and writhed with chaos, fighting against every pattern he tried to apply to it. Something was very wrong with these humans, or perhaps something was very right. The emergency council room on Earth was packed with representatives from every nation. Holographic screens showed the recordings from the Endeavor's encounter with the synthesis. Ambassador Ross stood at the center, his face tired but determined. They're not offering us membership, he said bluntly. They're demanding submission. And if we refuse, they'll make us like the Krell. Sterile, controlled, effectively extinct within a generation. General Marcus Wade slammed his fist on the table. Then we fight. We've faced extinction before and survived. We'll do it again. Fight with what? Asked President Chen, Sarah's distant cousin. They control biological life itself. They can create plagues we've never seen. They can modify living weapons faster than we can respond. This isn't an enemy we can shoot. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward. Maybe we can't shoot them, but I think I know why they're worried about us. She pulled up a holographic image of human DNA. Look at this. Then look at this. She showed another image, this one of an alien species called the Thren. See the difference? Most of the council members shook their heads. To them, both looked like complex spirals of genetic code. Exactly, Sarah said. You can't see it easily, but it's there. The alien DNA is clean, organized. It follows clear mathematical patterns. It's like a well-designed computer program, beautiful and efficient. She zoomed in on the human DNA. Now look at ours. It's messy, full of what we used to call junk DNA, filled with viral insertions from millions of years of infections. Our genetic code looks like a computer program that's been hacked, rewritten, corrupted, and patched together thousands of times. So we're inferior? Someone asked. No, Sarah said with a small smile. We're unpredictable. Earth is what the synthesis would call a nightmare world. High radiation from our sun, countless viruses and bacteria all fighting for survival. Horizontal gene transfer where organisms steal DNA from each other. Our evolution was messy and violent and chaotic, and that chaos is written into every cell of our bodies. She pulled up another chart. Human immune systems are incredibly aggressive compared to other species. We have to be. We evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us at the microscopic level. Our bodies learn to adapt, to change, to fight back against biological threats constantly. Ambassador Ross leaned forward. What are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying their biological lock technology probably won't work on us, Sarah explained. It requires genetic obedience. Standardized patterns they can predict and control. But human DNA doesn't obey patterns. It's too variable, too adaptive. Every human is slightly different at the genetic level. What works on one person might not work on another. General Wade's eyes lit up. Can you prove this? Give me 2 weeks, Sarah said. I have samples of the scanner data the synthesis took from us. I can simulate their control technology and test it against human cells. But I need full access to the bioweapon research facilities. President Chen nodded. You have it. Whatever you need. General Wade, prepare our defenses. If Dr. Chen is wrong, we need to be ready for war. Sarah spent the next 12 days barely sleeping. Her team worked around the clock, trying to understand how the synthesis biological lock functioned. It was brilliant and terrifying. The synthesis had discovered how to write commands directly into DNA using specific electromagnetic frequencies. These commands could turn genes on or off, triggering sterility, docility, or death. On the 13th day, they tested it on human cell cultures. Sarah held her breath as they activated the simulated biological lock signal. The cells should have stopped dividing. They should have begun their programmed death. Instead, they kept growing normally. The biological lock commands were being ignored. Run it again, Sarah ordered. Higher frequency. They tried 10 more times with different settings. Nothing worked. The human cells simply didn't respond to the control signals. In fact, after the 5th attempt, Sarah noticed something incredible. The cells were adapting. Their membranes were changing to block the electromagnetic frequencies entirely. It's like they're learning, whispered Dr. James Park, her assistant. The cells are treating the biological lock signals like an infection and developing immunity. Sarah ran to report her findings to the council. But when she arrived, there was chaos. General Wade was shouting orders and alarm sirens were blaring. What's happening? Sarah demanded. Ross grabbed her arm. The synthesis sent a message an hour ago. They said our 30 days are up. They're sending what they call purifiers to test our defenses. And Sarah, they're already here. The screens showed satellite footage of 3 massive organic ships entering Earth's atmosphere. They looked like giant predatory fish with mouths that could swallow buildings. As they descended, they released smaller creatures. These purifiers looked like a nightmare mix of insect and reptile, each one the size of a tank. How many? Sarah asked. 50 per ship, Wade replied grimly. 150 bioweapons heading for major cities. New York, Beijing, and London are the first targets. The screens showed military forces engaging the purifiers. Bullets seemed to hurt them, but they healed rapidly. When one was finally killed by sustained tank fire, it dissolved into acidic slime that ate through concrete. They're holding back, Ross said quietly. This is just a demonstration. They want to scare us into submission. Did my report reach you? Sarah asked urgently. President Chen nodded. It did. If you're right, we might survive this. But Sarah, being immune to their biological lock doesn't mean we can win a war against them. They've been doing this for 12,000 years. They have biological weapons we can't even imagine. Sarah was about to respond when a new screen activated. A face appeared, unfamiliar but somehow similar to the aliens they'd met. This one looked younger with nervous eyes. My name is Thren, the alien said in hurried English. I am a junior scientist with the synthesis. I am sending this message in secret at great personal risk. You must listen carefully. The matriarch is lying to you about your world. Everyone in the room froze. Thren continued, his words rushing out. 12,000 years ago, the synthesis attempted to seed your planet with the Genesis code. They sent a mission to bring Earth into the collective. The entire mission vanished. No survivors. No transmissions. The synthesis labeled Earth as a dead zone and never returned. They claimed the mission was lost to equipment failure. He looked directly at the camera, but I found the real records. The mission didn't fail because of equipment. They died because Earth's biosphere killed them. Your viruses, your bacteria, your aggressive immune responses, everything about your planet destroyed the Genesis code they tried to insert. Earth rejected the synthesis at the molecular level. Sarah felt her heart racing. That's why we're different. They couldn't control our evolution because they couldn't survive here long enough to modify it. Thren nodded. You evolved in what the synthesis considers a genetic hell. And that is why you terrify them. You are proof that life can exist, can thrive without their control. If other species learn this, the entire synthesis could collapse. Please, I request asylum. I will help you fight them. Because what they did to the Krell, they have done to thousands of species, and I can no longer serve them. The transmission ended abruptly. For a moment, no one spoke. Then General Wade smiled grimly. Well, he said, I guess we have an expert witness now. And if Earth already beat them once, maybe we can do it again. Outside, the battle with the purifiers raged on. But now humanity had hope. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something the galaxy had forgotten: freedom. Thren's small escape pod was intercepted by a human military vessel 3 days after his transmission. When they brought him aboard, he was shaking with fear and exhaustion. Dr. Sarah Chen was the first to greet him. "You're safe now," she said gently. "Welcome to Earth." Thren looked at her with his large dark eyes. His species was tall and thin, with gray fur covering most of his body. "Safe is a relative term," he said. "The synthesis will hunt me, and they will punish you for harboring me. I have committed the greatest crime in galactic law. I have betrayed the Genesis Code." "Then we'll face that together," Sarah replied. She led him to a secure research facility deep underground. General Wade and Ambassador Ross were already waiting. "Tell us everything," Wade said. "How does the synthesis really work?" Thren settled into a chair that had been modified for his body shape. "The matriarch believes she is doing good," he began. "She truly thinks that controlling life is necessary, but the truth is more complicated." He pulled out a data device he'd smuggled with him. "May I?" Sarah connected it to their systems. Ancient files appeared on the screens written in languages that predated the synthesis. 15,000 years ago, the galaxy was very different, Thren explained. Hundreds of species existed, all with unique biology. Some were silicon-based. Others were energy beings. Life was diverse and wild and unpredictable. Then came the Great Plague Wars. Species created biological weapons and unleashed them on each other. Billions died. The screen showed images of devastated worlds. Sarah felt sick looking at them. 3 species survived better than others, Thren continued. My ancestors, the Velshara's people and the crystalline Zenth, they had developed early biocontrol technology. They used it to protect themselves. And then they made a decision. He paused, his fur rippling with what Sarah recognized as distress. They decided that the only way to prevent future wars was to control all life. They called it the Synthesis Project. They made themselves gods, Ross said quietly. Yes, Thren agreed. They created the Genesis Code by studying the common patterns in DNA across species. Then they began modifying every species they encountered. At first they claimed it was voluntary, protective modifications to prevent plague. But over generations, these modifications became control mechanisms. The biological locks were inserted into every registered species. Now, 12,000 years later, almost every living thing in the galaxy has synthesis DNA woven into it. Wade leaned forward. Almost every living thing. Except humans. Except humans, Thren confirmed. Your world was designated Target Planet 774. A synthesis expedition was sent to prepare Earth for integration. The plan was standard. Introduce Genesis Code into the dominant species, insert biological locks, and guide evolution toward compliance. Sarah pulled up a map of Earth from 12,000 years ago. That would have been during the last ice age. Early humans were just developing agriculture in some regions. Thren nodded. The expedition landed in what you now call the Mediterranean region. They brought genetic modification equipment and samples of compliant DNA patterns. But something went wrong almost immediately. He brought up the recovered mission logs. Sarah read them with growing fascination and horror. Day 12. Local microorganisms are extremely aggressive. Standard sterilization failing. 3 team members showing infection symptoms. Day 18. Infection spreading despite treatment. Local viruses do not respond to Genesis Code patterns. They mutate faster than we can track. Day 23. Emergency quarantine established. We cannot return to orbit. Risk of contaminating the ship is too high. Local wildlife appears hostile to our biology. Multiple team members attacked by pack hunters. Wounds are not healing properly. Day 30. Only 7 survivors. We are dying. Earth rejects the Genesis Code. The biosphere here is chaos incarnate. Sending final warning. Never return to this world. It is a tomb of order and a cradle of madness. The final log entry sent chills through Sarah. The synthesis expedition had been completely destroyed by Earth's natural defenses. The viruses, the bacteria, even the environment itself had killed them. Your planet evolved differently than any other known world, Thren explained. Most life-bearing worlds have relatively stable genetics. Mutations happen slowly. Viruses are rare. But Earth experienced multiple mass extinctions. High radiation, constant environmental stress. Life here learned to evolve rapidly or die. Your DNA is a record of billions of years of biological warfare at the microscopic level. Sarah began to understand. We're not just immune to the biological lock. We're immune because Earth already tried to kill us thousands of times and failed. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and every disaster nature could throw at them. We're the descendants of survivors. More than that, Thren said. Humans carry genetic material from Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other extinct human species. You interbred with them. You absorbed their DNA. That's unheard of in the galaxy. Most species cannot crossbreed at all, those that can produce sterile offspring. But humans took genetic diversity from multiple sources and became stronger for it. General Wade smiled grimly. So we're mongrels, and that's our strength. The synthesis would call you corrupted, Thren said. Genetically impure, chaotic, everything they fear. But I call you something else, free. You are the only species in the galaxy that the synthesis cannot control at the genetic level, and that terrifies them. Ross stood up and paced. So what's their next move? Those purifiers they sent were just a test. What happens when they decide we're too dangerous to leave alone? Thren's fur darkened, a sign of deep worry. They will try to contain you first. Quarantine your solar system. Prevent you from spreading to other worlds. But if that fails, if you show any ability to resist them effectively, they will use the Omega strain. What's the Omega strain? Sarah asked. The ultimate biological weapon, Thren whispered. A plague designed to rewrite cellular function itself. It has destroyed 17 species who refuse to join the synthesis. It has never failed. The Omega strain does not just kill, it transforms living tissue into basic organic matter. Within hours, complex life reverts to primordial soup. Entire planets have been sterilized with it. The room fell silent. Then Wade spoke, his voice hard as steel. Can we fight it? Thren looked at him sadly. No species has ever survived the Omega strain. It adapts faster than any immune system can respond. It was designed by combining the deadliest genetic elements from 1,000 extinct species. The synthesis considers it the ultimate expression of their control over life. Sarah felt fear grip her heart. But then she remembered the mission logs. Earth had killed a synthesis expedition through sheer biological chaos. The planet itself had been too wild, too unpredictable for their ordered minds to handle. Maybe that's the answer, she said slowly. We can't beat them at their own game. They've been playing it for 12,000 years, but we don't have to play by their rules. Earth survived by being chaotic, unpredictable, and aggressive. Maybe that's how humanity survives too. Ross turned to her. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we do what Earth did to them 12,000 years ago, Sarah said. We reject their order. We introduce chaos into their perfect system. We weaponize the very thing that makes us different. Wade grinned. You want to give them a taste of Earth's biology. More than a taste, Sarah replied. I want to show them why you don't pick a fight with a planet that spent 4 billion years perfecting the art of biological warfare. We're going to propose a trial. If we can survive their Omega strain, they have to recognize our independence. And if we survive, we'll have proven that their control isn't absolute. Thren looked at her in shock. You would voluntarily face the Omega strain? That is suicide. Maybe, Sarah admitted. Or maybe the reason the synthesis never came back to Earth is because they knew they couldn't win. There's only one way to find out. Ambassador Ross nodded slowly. It's insane, but it might be our only chance. If we refuse, they attack anyway. At least this way, we control the terms of engagement. And if it works, Wade added, we'll have given hope to every species in the galaxy that's living under synthesis control. We'll prove that freedom is possible. Thren looked at the three humans and felt something he had not felt in years. It was fragile and frightening and beautiful all at once. It was hope. The human ship Prometheus hung in space between Earth and the synthesis station. Inside were 100 volunteers, all military personnel who understood they might not survive. Captain Maria Torres stood on the bridge watching as alien ships surrounded them. This is insane, her second officer muttered. We're volunteering to be infected with a doomsday plague. We're volunteering to prove a point, Torres corrected him. That humanity can't be controlled. Not by them, not by anyone. On Earth, billions watched the live feed. In the council chambers, Ambassador Ross stood before the holographic image of Matriarch Velshara. Dr. Sarah Chen and Thren flanked him on either side. You propose a trial by biology, Velshara said, her forearms moving in what might have been amusement. This is unprecedented, foolish. The Omega strain has never failed. Then you have nothing to fear, Ross replied calmly. If we survive, you recognize humanity's right to exist as an independent species, free from synthesis modification. If we don't survive, you've proven your point and eliminated a problem. Either way, this ends without a prolonged war. Curator Zenith, the gray-furred alien, appeared beside Velshara. The humans are stalling. They hope to develop a defense during this time. Let them try, Velshara said. No amount of preparation can save them from the Omega strain. I accept your trial, Ambassador Ross, but know this. I take no pleasure in what will happen to your people. This is mercy. A quick end is kinder than the alternatives. Thren stepped forward. Matriarch, I beg you to reconsider. The humans are different. Their biology. Silence, traitor? The crystalline Zenth alien interrupted. You have no voice here. You abandon the synthesis. Your opinion is worthless, Velshara raised a hand. The trial will proceed. We will release the Omega strain into the human vessel. The galaxy will watch. Let this be a lesson to all species about the consequences of rejecting order. The transmission ended. Sarah turned to Ross. Are you sure about this? No, Ross admitted. But it's too late to back out now. Torres and her crew knew the risks. Now we trust in 4 billion years of Earth evolution. On the Prometheus, Captain Torres gathered her crew. Listen up, she said. In 1 hour, they're going to pump a bioweapon into our ship that has destroyed 17 species. The eggheads tell us our immune systems might be able to handle it because we evolved in a nastier environment than anyone else in the galaxy. Might. That's the best they can give us. A young pilot raised her hand. Captain, what are our odds? Torres smiled grimly. Honestly, I have no idea. But I know this. Humans have survived everything Earth threw at us for millions of years. Ice ages, plagues, predators, disasters, we're still here. So maybe, just maybe, we're tougher than this synthesis thinks. And even if we're not, we'll go down proving that Earth doesn't bow to anyone. The crew erupted in cheers. Torres felt pride swell in her chest. These people knew they might die, and they faced it with courage. The hour passed too quickly. A synthesis bioship approached the Prometheus. Something that looked like a tendril extended from it and attached to the human ship's hull. Torres felt the ship shudder. Containment breach in Cargo Bay 3, her officer reported. The Omega strain is inside. Torres activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, the plague has been released. Seal your sections, follow decontamination protocols, and may whatever gods you believe in watch over us. At first, nothing happened. The crew waited tensely. Then, 30 minutes after release, the first crew member collapsed. Ensign Park stumbled and fell to the floor, convulsing. His skin began to change color, shifting from healthy brown to a sickly gray. Medical team to Deck 4, Torres ordered. But even as she spoke, more crew members began falling. The disease spread through the ship like wildfire. On Earth, the screens showed vital signs from all 100 crew members. Dr. Chen watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as, one by one, the indicators turned yellow for critical condition. Heart rate spiked. Body temperature soared. The Omega strain was doing exactly what it was designed to do, overwhelming biological systems faster than they could respond. It's not working, someone whispered. They're all going to die. Sarah refused to look away. Wait, she said. Just wait. On the Prometheus, Captain Torres felt the fever hit her like a hammer. Her head pounded. Her vision blurred. She collapsed into her command chair, struggling to breathe. Around her, the bridge crew was in similar condition. Some were unconscious. Others writhed in pain. This is it, she thought. This is how we die. But then something changed. The pain in her chest began to ease slightly. Her breathing became less labored. She forced her eyes open and looked at her hands. The gray discoloration was fading, replaced by her normal skin tone. Captain? Her medical officer's voice came through the comm, weak but alive. Something's happening. The infection is stopping. Our immune systems are adapting. I don't understand how, but we're fighting it off. On Earth, Sarah leaned closer to the screens. The vital signs had stopped declining. Some were even improving. Look, she said, pointing. Their white blood cell counts are skyrocketing. Their bodies recognized the Omega strain as a threat and mobilized every defense they have. Thren stared at the data in disbelief. This is impossible. The Omega strain adapts faster than any immune system. It should be mutating to overcome their defenses. It probably is mutating, Sarah said excitedly. But human immune systems are designed to fight rapidly mutating viruses. We've been doing it for millions of years. The common cold mutates constantly and we still fight it off. The Omega strain is deadly, yes, but it's following predictable patterns. Patterns our bodies know how to counter. 12 hours after infection, the crisis began to pass. Crew members who had been unconscious started waking up. Those who had been critically ill were stabilizing. The medical bay was overwhelmed, but everyone was alive. 24 hours after infection, Captain Torres stood on her bridge again, weak but recovering. "Status report," she ordered. "All crew members accounted for," her officer replied. 47 are still in medical care, but all are expected to make full recovery. "Captain, we survived. We actually survived." Torres allowed herself a smile. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them humanity just passed the test." Across the galaxy, 1 billion screens showed the same image. The Prometheus, still intact, with all crew members alive. Species that had lived under synthesis control for thousands of years watched in stunned silence. On the synthesis station, Matriarch Velshara stared at the impossible data. "How?" she whispered. "The Omega strain has never failed. Never." Curator Zenith was frantically scanning the human crew remotely. "Matriarch, this is worse than we thought. The humans aren't just surviving. They're developing immunity. Their bodies have learned to recognize and destroy the Omega strain. If they can share this immunity with other species, then the Omega strain is compromised," Velshara finished. Her voice was hollow. "Our ultimate weapon is useless against them. And worse, they have proven that synthesis control can be resisted." The crystalline Zenith spoke, its voice like breaking glass. "This cannot stand. The humans are not just a threat. They are an existential danger to everything we have built. If other species learn that they can resist us, our entire civilization will collapse. We must destroy humanity completely now, before they spread." Velshara's eyes dimmed. For 12,000 years, the synthesis had maintained order through fear and control. They had never encountered a species that could truly challenge them. Until now. "Activate the fleet," she said quietly. "We will sterilize Earth and every human colony. This is no longer about bringing them into the synthesis. This is about survival. Humanity must be erased from existence." On Earth, the celebration of the Prometheus crew's survival was interrupted by alarms. General Wade's face appeared on every screen. "They're coming," he said grimly. "Every synthesis warship in this sector is heading toward Earth. This is it, people. The real war begins now." Ambassador Ross stood and looked at the screen showing the approaching fleet. Hundreds of bioships, each one capable of destroying cities. But he did not feel fear. He felt determination. "Then we show them," he said. "What happens when you threaten a species that refused to die for 4 billion years? We show them what Earth really means. And we make sure every species in this galaxy sees it." Sarah nodded. "It's time to weaponize chaos." The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The synthesis fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of locusts. 300 bioships, each one a living weapon grown in genetic vats. They pulsed with hostile intent, their organic hulls rippling with anticipation. On Earth, General Wade stood in the command center, watching the enemy approach. "Estimated time until they reach Earth?" 14 hours, sir," an officer replied. "Then we have 14 hours to make this work," Wade said. He turned to Dr. Sarah Chen. "Doctor, are your packages ready?" Sarah nodded, though her face was pale with worry. "Ready as they'll ever be. General, you understand what we're about to do. We're not just fighting a war. We're potentially changing the galactic ecosystem forever." "I understand," Wade replied, "but they left us no choice. They want to erase humanity. So we show them why Earth has always been the most dangerous planet in the galaxy." The plan was desperate and brilliant. Over the past week, while the Prometheus crew recovered, Sarah and her team had been working on something unprecedented. They called it Operation Pandora. Using samples from the Omega strain and combining them with Earth's most aggressive microorganisms, they had created a counter-weapon. Not a plague designed to kill, but a genetic virus designed to disrupt. It would target the Genesis code patterns that the synthesis used to control their biotechnology. It wouldn't destroy their ships or kill their crews. It would simply introduce chaos into their perfect order. "Will it work?" Ambassador Ross asked as he joined them in the command center. "Honestly," Sarah said, "I have no idea. We're essentially trying to give their bioships the equivalent of a computer virus mixed with a flu. It should make their systems malfunction. But these are living ships. They might adapt. They might overcome it. or it might spread through their entire fleet and cripple them. Thren had been unusually quiet, standing at the back of the room. Now he spoke up. If this works, it will spread beyond just their fleet. The synthesis network is biologically connected. Every registered species has Genesis code in their DNA. Your weapon could reach them all. Would that be so bad? Wade asked. From what you've told us, every species in the galaxy is living under genetic tyranny. Maybe it's time someone freed them. Or maybe it will kill them, Thren said softly. The Genesis code is woven into their cells. Disrupting it could cause massive die-offs. You could save the galaxy from the synthesis and accidentally commit genocide at the same time. Sarah felt sick. She hadn't fully considered that possibility. We could dial it back. Make it less aggressive. No time, Wade said as alarms blared. They're launching their first attack. Biomissiles incoming. The screens showed hundreds of organic projectiles launched from the synthesis fleet. These weren't explosives. They were seed pods, each one containing billions of engineered pathogens designed to infect Earth's biosphere and render it lifeless. Launch countermeasures, Wade ordered, and deploy Operation Pandora. Human ships intercepted many of the biomissiles, destroying them before they could reach Earth. But some got through. They crashed into oceans, forests, and deserts, releasing their deadly cargo. At the same time, human ships launched their own payload. Thousands of small capsules containing Sarah's engineered chaos virus shot toward the synthesis fleet. Direct hits on 47 enemy vessels, an officer reported. Virus deployment successful. Now came the waiting. Sarah watched her screens, monitoring the telemetry from the infected synthesis ships. At first, nothing happened. Then 5 minutes after infection, the first ship began to show signs of distress. Its organic hull started twitching irregularly. The bioluminescent patterns that covered its surface flickered and went dark. The ship slowed, its biological thrusters firing erratically. It's working, Sarah whispered. The virus is disrupting their control systems. More ships began to malfunction. Some collided with each other. Others fired their weapons randomly. The perfect coordination of the synthesis fleet dissolved into confusion. But on Earth, the situation was equally chaotic. The synthesis pathogens that had reached the surface were spreading. In the Amazon rainforest, trees began to wither. In the Pacific Ocean, fish were dying by the millions. The alien plagues were attacking Earth's biosphere. We're losing entire ecosystems, an environmental officer reported. The synthesis weapons are too powerful. At this rate, Earth will be uninhabitable within weeks. But then something unexpected happened. In the Amazon, where the alien plague had spread the furthest, the trees stopped dying. The withering reversed. Sarah pulled up the data, confused. What's happening? Ross asked. Earth is fighting back, Sarah said in wonder. Look at this. The native bacteria in the soil are attacking the alien pathogens, and they're winning. It's like the soil itself is an immune system. Thren moved closer to look at the data. This is what happened to the synthesis expedition 12,000 years ago, he said. Earth's biosphere is so competitive, so aggressive, that it treats any foreign biology as an invasive species. Your planet is defending itself. Around the world, the same pattern repeated. In the oceans, native microorganisms swarmed the alien pathogens. In forests, fungal networks mobilized to attack the invaders. Earth had spent 4 billion years perfecting the art of biological warfare. The synthesis plagues, for all their sophistication, were no match for a planet that had survived countless extinction events. Meanwhile, in space, the chaos virus was spreading through the synthesis fleet faster than expected. It jumped from ship to ship through their biological communication network. Within 2 hours, over half the fleet was compromised. On the synthesis flagship, Matriarch Velshara watched her perfect fleet fall apart. How is this possible? She demanded. Our ships are immune to biological attack. We designed them that way. The human weapon doesn't attack the ships directly, Curator Zenith explained, his fur bristling with stress. It attacks the Genesis code patterns. It's introducing random mutations, scrambling the control sequences. Our ship's biological systems are receiving contradictory instructions. They don't know how to respond. The crystalline Zenith floated forward. Then we must retreat, regroup, develop a countermeasure. No, Velshara said firmly. If we retreat now, every species in the galaxy will know that we can be beaten. We must destroy Earth even if it costs us the entire fleet. Send in the second wave. All remaining ships full assault. Back on Earth, General Wade received the report. They're not backing down. Every functional ship is heading straight for us. Sarah made a decision. General, I need to modify the chaos virus. Make it more aggressive. If we're going to do this, we need to commit fully. What are you proposing? I'm proposing we don't just disrupt their fleet, Sarah said. I'm proposing we break their entire network. We send the virus through their biological communication channels. We hit every synthesis installation, every registered species, everything connected to the Genesis code. We introduce so much genetic chaos that they can never reassert control. Ross grabbed her arm. Sarah, that could kill billions. You said yourself many species are dependent on the Genesis code now. I know, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. But if we don't do this, humanity dies. And the synthesis continues enslaving species for another 12,000 years. At least this way, we give everyone a chance at freedom. Even if it's painful. Even if it's dangerous. Thren stepped forward. I will help you, he said. I know the synthesis network better than anyone. Together, we can target the modifications to minimize casualties. We can try to disrupt control without destroying the species themselves. Wade looked at Ross. The ambassador looked back. An entire world's fate rested on this decision. Do it, Ross said finally. But Sarah, Thren, you make this as surgical as possible. We're trying to free species, not kill them. Sarah and Thren worked frantically, modifying the chaos virus. They created a version that would specifically target the biological lock sequences, while leaving basic cellular function intact. It was delicate work done under impossible pressure. Ready? Sarah said after an hour. But General, once we release this, there's no taking it back. This will change the galaxy forever. Wade nodded grimly. Launch it, and pray we're on the right side of history. The modified chaos virus deployed from every human ship simultaneously. It shot through space toward the synthesis fleet, toward their homeworlds, toward every corner of the galaxy where the Genesis code had taken root. As it spread, Sarah received a priority transmission. It was from the Krell homeworld, the planet that had been sterilized by the synthesis decades ago. A face appeared on the screen. One of the surviving Krell, kept alive but sterile as a museum piece. We felt it, the Krell said, wonder in their voice. Something changed. The lock in our genes. It's breaking. We can feel our bodies waking up. What did you do? Sarah smiled through her tears. We gave you back your freedom. What you do with it is up to you. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, species felt the change. The biological locks that had kept them docile, controlled, and obedient for generations began to fail. And for the first time in 12,000 years, they remembered what it meant to be free. But the battle for Earth was not over. The synthesis fleet, damaged but still dangerous, continued its assault. The real fight was just beginning. The synthesis flagship was dying. Matriarch Velshara felt it through her neural connection to the ship's biological systems. The chaos virus had infected the vessel's core functions. The living walls spasmed irregularly. The breathing vents wheezed with distress. Her perfect ship, grown over decades and attuned to her thoughts, was becoming unpredictable. Status of the fleet, she commanded. Curator Zenith's voice was strained. 70% of our ships are non-functional. The rest are experiencing cascade failures. Matriarch, we must retreat. If we continue, we will lose everything. We have already lost everything, Velshara replied quietly. She pulled up galactic communications. Reports were flooding in from every synthesis-controlled world. The biological locks were failing across the entire network. Species were experiencing genetic awakening. Some were celebrating. Others were panicking as their biology became unpredictable again. The perfect order she had maintained for her entire life was crumbling. Matriarch, the crystalline Zenth said, we can still destroy Earth. Our remaining ships can crash into the planet. We may not survive, but neither will humanity. We can eliminate the source of this chaos. Velshara looked at the image of Earth on her screens, that small blue world so vibrant with uncontrolled life. She had thought it a threat, a cancer that needed to be removed. But now she wondered if perhaps the cancer had been her own civilization all along. No, she said finally, no more death. I will speak with the humans. On Earth, Ambassador Ross received the incoming transmission with surprise. Matriarch Velshara wishes to negotiate? After everything? Patch her through, General Wade ordered. But keep our weapons hot. This could be a trick. Velshara's image appeared, and Ross was shocked by what he saw. The matriarch looked diminished somehow. Her forearms hung limply. Her eyes had lost their glow. Ambassador Ross, she said, I am contacting you to offer surrender. Silence filled the command center. No one had expected this. The synthesis fleet will withdraw from your solar system, Velshara continued. We will not attack Earth again. In return, I ask only for safe passage for my surviving crew members. Why? Ross asked. Why give up now? You still have ships. You could do tremendous damage. Because I have just received reports from across the galaxy, Velshara replied. Do you know what is happening out there because of what you unleashed? Species are dying, without the Genesis code stabilizing their genetics. Some are experiencing cellular collapse. Others are suffering genetic diseases that we had cured centuries ago. Your chaos virus is killing billions. Sarah felt her heart sink. This was her worst fear realized, but Velshara continued. And yet other species are thriving. They are rediscovering genetic diversity we had suppressed. They are adapting, evolving, changing in ways we never allowed. The Krell, who we sterilized, are fertile again. They are having children for the first time in a generation. They are weeping with joy. The matriarch's voice broke slightly. I spent my entire life believing that control was necessary. That without the synthesis guiding evolution, species would destroy themselves. But I was wrong. Your species proved that. You survived on a death world without our guidance. You evolved through chaos and became stronger for it. She looked directly at Ross. I am a tyrant, Ambassador. I claimed to be a gardener, but I was a jailer. And now my jail is broken. I cannot repair it. Perhaps I should not repair it. So I surrender. Not just this fleet, but the synthesis itself. Do with us what you will. Ross exchanged glances with Wade and Sarah. This was unprecedented. We don't want revenge, Matriarch, Ross said carefully. We wanted freedom. For ourselves and for others. If you're willing to step back to let species control their own destiny, then there doesn't need to be more bloodshed. Thren stepped forward into view of the camera. Matriarch Velshara, this is Thren. I request permission to speak. Velshara's eyes widened slightly. The traitor, speak. You are not evil, Thren said gently. You believed you were doing good. But the road to tyranny is paved with good intentions. Now you have a chance to do actual good. Help us. Help the species who are struggling with the transition. Your knowledge of genetics could save those who are dying, not to control them, but to heal them. Velshara was quiet for a long moment. You would trust me to help after everything? Trust must start somewhere, Sarah interjected. And frankly, we need your expertise. I'm a good scientist, but you have 12,000 years of genetic knowledge. Together, we might be able to minimize the casualties from what we've done. Over the next 3 months, an unprecedented cooperation began. The synthesis fleet withdrew, but Matriarch Velshara and a team of her scientists came to Earth as guests, not prisoners. They worked alongside human researchers to create medical treatments for species suffering from the sudden loss of Genesis code stabilization. It wasn't perfect. Some species did suffer. The transition from genetic control to genetic freedom was painful for many. But gradually, stability returned. Species learned to manage their own biology again, guided by synthesis knowledge but not synthesis control. The galactic political landscape transformed. The collective synthesis dissolved. In its place, dozens of independent civilizations emerged, forming alliances based on mutual benefit rather than biological control. Captain Torres and the crew of the Prometheus became heroes across the galaxy. They were the ones who had proven that the synthesis could be resisted. Their survival had sparked a revolution. 6 months after the battle, a conference was held on Earth. Representatives from 200 species gathered in what they called the Assembly of Free Worlds. Ambassador Ross stood before them. We didn't set out to destroy your civilization, he said. We just refused to let ours be destroyed. But what happened here has given all of us an opportunity. For 12,000 years, the galaxy has been ordered, controlled, and safe. Now it's going to be chaotic, unpredictable, and dangerous. And that's okay. Because chaos is where evolution happens. Chaos is where freedom lives. He gestured to the image of Earth rotating behind him. My planet taught us that life finds a way. Not through control, but through adaptation. Not through order, but through diversity. We want to share that lesson with all of you. Not as masters, but as partners. Matriarch Velshara, who sat in the audience, stood. Many species gasped. She had become a controversial figure, respected for her knowledge but reviled for her past actions. Ambassador Ross is correct, she said. I spent millennia fighting chaos, trying to impose order on life itself. But life is meant to be chaotic. It is meant to surprise us, to challenge us, to grow beyond our expectations. I see that now. And I dedicate the rest of my life to helping repair the damage my civilization caused. The assembly erupted in mixed reactions. Some applauded. Others shouted in anger. But gradually a consensus emerged. The past could not be changed, but the future could be built together. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck later that night, looking at the stars. Thren joined her. "Do you think it will work?" he asked. "This new galactic order?" "Honestly, I don't know," Sarah admitted. "We've unleashed something we can't fully control. Some species will thrive. Others will struggle. There will be conflicts, maybe even wars. It won't be peaceful, but it will be free," Thren said. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "It will be free." General Wade found Ambassador Ross in his quarters, staring at reports. "Still working?" "Always," Ross replied with a tired smile. "Did you know that 3 species have already asked for samples of Earth bacteria? They want to introduce genetic diversity into their populations." Wade laughed. "Earth is becoming the galaxy's source of biological chaos. Our ancestors would be proud. We survived by being too stubborn to die, and now we're teaching the galaxy how to do the same." "There's something poetic about that," Ross said. "Humanity, the species that evolved in hell, teaching others how to survive without masters." Years passed. Earth became a center of biological research and genetic freedom. The chaos virus that had broken the synthesis network was studied, refined, and eventually replaced with gentler methods of removing genetic control. Species across the galaxy slowly reclaimed their original biology, sometimes with help from human and former synthesis scientists. The Krell rebuilt their civilization, their population growing again after decades of enforced sterility. They erected a monument to the Prometheus and its crew, calling it the Memorial to the Unbroken. Matriarch Velshara lived long enough to see her former empire transform into something better. She died peacefully on Earth with both Dr. Chen and Thren at her bedside. Her last words were simple. "Thank you for teaching me what I should have always known. That life cannot be controlled. It can only be celebrated. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secure, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as equals. They had shown the universe that freedom was possible, even after 12,000 years of tyranny. And in doing so, they had fulfilled the promise their world had made billions of years ago. Life finds a way, always." Ambassador Ross stood before the Assembly of Free Worlds one final time before his retirement. He was old now, his hair white, his body tired, but his voice was strong.